Good morning, sisters and brothers of the Corvallis United Methodist Church and anybody else who might be joining us. This is Friday, April something, and we continue to live our lives in this new reality. What I would like to do today is something a little bit different. We're not going to be able to have communion this weekend as we typically do on Sunday, the first Sunday of the month. I would like to defer communion until Easter Sunday, which is next Sunday. And recognizing the reality that we're not going to be able to join together and break the bread and share the bread, I thought first that we would buy those little pre-measured communion wafers and cups, and we could just send them out to everybody in the mail and we could all do communion together over the computer. Well, we can do that, but we'll have to wait until about July 15th, because that's as soon as you can get those little pre-measured communion wafers. So then I thought, well, we're all at home and we're communicating by computer. What if we just made bread together and then used that as our communion bread? Which makes sense if you think about it, because communion began as Jesus was sharing a meal with those closest to him. And there's not anything particularly magical about the kind of bread or the kind of drink that was originally used. Jesus had meals that looked suspiciously like communion with grilled fish and toasted bread on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. So I invite you this morning to join with me as I make true Southern biscuits. This can be done quickly and simply. I think I can accomplish this in 5 minutes. You can follow along if you want. If you want to make it, you can pause as appropriate. You can have your own bread at home. The one thing I would say is, if making these biscuits requires you to go to the grocery store, please don't. It's not worth that. There's some kind of bread in your cupboard or in your refrigerator that you could use, and any kind of bread will do for this communion service we're talking about. I have a good friend who grew up in South Georgia who suggested that perhaps we should do hush puppies and natural light. And I will only say about that people who grow up fishing for bass end up with a very, very disturbed and skewed sense of reality and religion. All right, so with that, I'm going to begin making these biscuits, again, which I think I can do in 5 minutes. And if I can remember, I'm going to tell you a funny communion story as we go. I want to thank my daughter, Katie, who's filming this, and praise God that we are now on day 16 after Katie's exposure to a friend who had a friend who tested positive for the coronavirus, and she's no more bizarre than she ever is. So I think we're out of the woods. It's always good to have my baby girl here with me. All right, so here's what we got. Self-rising flour. If you don't have self-rising flour, you guys know how to do this. You use all-purpose flour and you put baking powder or baking soda in it and a little salt. Now, you can use, for the fat part of this, you can use butter, you can use Crisco. If you want to lean all in, I recommend the 5-pound bucket of lard. If you don't happen to have a 5-pound bucket of lard, well, first off, I'm sorry. But there are many reasonable substitutes. Now, you may be wondering, isn't lard bad for you? The answer is absolutely. It is very, very bad. It makes a mean biscuit, I'm telling you that. We fried chicken the other day in this house. We don't fry chicken a lot, it's a lot of trouble. Fried chicken in lard in our house, and our entire house smelled like the inside of a biscuit for 2 days. It was wonderful. All right, here is your fat of whatever description, self-rising flour, milk or buttermilk. If you have buttermilk really makes a better biscuit. If you do not have buttermilk, don't go to the store. All you have to do to make milk, buttermilk, or at least soured milk, is add a tablespoon of vinegar to it. We got about a cup of soured milk, a half a cup of lard or Crisco or butter, whatever you happen to have on hand, 2 cups of self-rising flour. All right, Katie, we're going to start the clock right about now.
And
all right, here we go. We're going to see if we can do this in 5 minutes.
3, 2, 1.
All right, here we go. The trick to a good biscuit I learned years ago when I worked at the White Columns restaurant. Most people had after-school jobs. I had a before-school job. I would get up at 4:30 in the morning and go and work from 5 until 8 a.m. making hundreds of biscuits. And I knew how to make biscuits before that, but I really learned the master Southern technique of biscuit making from a woman named Clestine Teague at the White Columns restaurant. And I learned the particulars of surviving anxious and panicked moments from her son, Donnie Teague, and her other son, Jerry Teague, who ran that restaurant. And I was a very excitable, 16-year-old boy working in sometimes stressful situations. And what I heard over and over from them, which I think is good advice for all of us in this time and in lots of times in life, they say, Shannon, the main thing is not to get too excited. And that's true. That is often the main thing. Just to recognize that these things are going to work out, that one thing has to follow another, that you can't do everything at once. The main thing is not to get too excited, but to remain calm and carry on. All right, now the lard has been cut in. And now see, we're going to run into a problem right now because I didn't get enough milk. Kit Kat, will you grab me the milk out of the fridge? Now see, it's in the door. In the door. Great example of the main thing being not to get too excited. I had an error right here in the middle of production. Could have panicked. Could have freaked out. The main thing is not to get too excited, so we're just going to add a little bit of milk. Oh, speaking of, misdeeds or something, I have a couple of apologies to make, I understand. I've really been cooped up too long. It's not bringing out my best qualities, I've been told by various members of my household. So, first, I've got to apologize to my wife and to our dog, Charlie. Evidently, I hurt Charlie's feelings when I referred to him as Christy's dog. He is, of course, our dog. We love him. Our lives would not be the same without Charlie. The other thing I have to confess is yesterday I cut Henry a little with a knife. Now, I want you to hear me carefully. I did not stab Henry.
You stabbed him.
I did not stab Henry, as has been alleged. The situation was thus.
You bludgeoned him.
Katie had made a pan of Rice Krispie treats. Here you go. You want to come get some of this?
Oh yeah, let's get this action.
Which are Katie's specialty? All right, these are cat head biscuits. See what I'm doing? All I'm doing is you don't have to roll these out. You drop them by rounded tablespoons into a cast iron skillet if you have it. Otherwise, just into whatever you.
Do they need to grease the cast iron skillet?
Yes, you do. It's a good idea. You don't have to. It makes a slightly crunchier crust if you do. So anyway, I did not stab Henry. Katie had made Rice Krispie treats, and Henry refused to let them cool. And anybody who is not a savage knows that, look, okay, there we are, that Rice Krispie treats are not right until they cool, and the rice becomes crispy again. Henry would not stop pulling at the still hot Rice Krispie treat pan. So, with the loving admonition of a good father, I had a butter knife in my hand and I just wrapped his fingers gently to help remind him they were not yet ready. He would not stop. I wrapped a little harder. He's a strong boy, fairly resistant to pain, so I wrapped a little harder still until I actually broke the skin on his finger with the butter knife, giving him something to talk about in therapy and something to hold over me now for life. It's not accurate to say I stabbed Henry. It might be accurate to say I beat Henry with a knife. Either way is probably not one of my finer parenting moments. So I need to apologize to Henry too. There. All right. What time are we at, Katie?
I think we're at about 5 right now.
Look, so that's 5 minutes. I'm going to put these in the oven.
What temperature?
Thank you. 450.
Yep.
A preheated 450 oven. That's really important. Get your oven hot first. Okay, these are going to come out, and you can enjoy them immediately. A cold biscuit is an unhappy biscuit. So eat some of these biscuits while they're hot. Here's what I recommend you do with the rest of them. When they cool down, pop them in a Ziploc bag, put them in the freezer. And then Saturday, before Easter Sunday, pull them out, and you can put them in the toaster on Sunday morning. We will, over the computer, consecrate the elements, and we will enjoy communion in the presence of Christ with us in a holy meal together. What you choose to dip your biscuit in is not of the most important concern. It can be your morning coffee, it can be some juice you happen to have, it can be water. But I hope this biscuit recipe is helpful to you. We've had a little bit of fun, and I'm gonna pop them in the oven real quick. And I urge you to use manners and behavior better than mine as you are cooped up in your own quarantine. And I hope you can enjoy the love of family and friends and the feeling of warmth from our God throughout this whole experience. I hope you have a great day. Amen.